Thanks for downloading another segment from the Best of the Classic Metal Show. The Classic Metal Show is heard live on Saturdays from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com. And now here's another piece of Classic Metal Show history on the Best of the Classic Metal Show.
The Classic Metal Show.
It's Deep Purple right here on the Classic Metal Show from the Stormbringer release, and that's Lady Double Dealer. And that CD, Chris, I believe you said it's going to be celebrating its 35th anniversary here real soon?
That is correct. The album Burn and the album Stormbringer, 35 years. 35 years in August, I believe, for Stormbringer, man. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that CD's been around longer than I have. Well, maybe. Well, anyway, on the phone with us, we do have legendary vocalist Glenn Hughes, who performed on that great CD with Deep Purple. And welcome back to the Classic Metal Show there, Glenn.
Thank you, brothers. How you doing?
Good. You're sounding like you're in a bit of a mellow mood this evening.
I am. I've been actually running, and I've just come back from New York. I had a really great weekend. My schedule is crazy at the moment, and it's like I still trying to keep the energy by doing a lot of gym work and running, and so it sort of mellows me out in the evening.
Sure. Well, from the pictures on your website, you look like you're very, very fit. And
I think at this point in my life, health is, God consciousness and health is very important to me, and it's not about the old, looking good. It's about how you feel, and I think it's so important to be in tune with one's spiritual side as well. So I think I'm dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Sure. Well, Glenn, your career, I mean, it's obviously a long and historic career, especially when you actually go back and look at all the different things that you've played on. And it's interesting because you were known as part of the Mach 3 era of Deep Purple, and now it almost seems like you're in the Mach 3 version of your solo career as well. You've changed styles for a third time. Now you're moving into a much more funk-oriented direction. I guess the obvious first place to start is, you started it with the last record, and now here with Nuclear Kitchen, you've really taken it into, completely away from the hard heavy metal type stuff, and you're going into a lot more funk direction. I guess the obvious first question is, what changed that made you want to change?
Great question, and I think for those people listening, it's very important that care about my music. I want to take you back to 1972 and 73. Before I joined Purple, I was in a band called Trapeze, which were very, very popular in, let's just say, the southern parts of America, such as the Georgias, the Texas, the Oklahomas, New Orleans, down that way, Atlanta, Georgia, and the Midwest as well. We were very popular. The foundation of the band was built on three ingredients: rock, soul, and funk. Exit Trapeze into Deep Purple territory. Deep Purple, massive, call it a hard rock band, if you will, sort of bordering a little bit on metal. When I joined the band, they'd already had out, Highway Star, and they had Smoke on the Water. Here comes David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes, and we sort of bring a little swagger into the band with Stormbringer and Burn and Come Taste the Band, more of a bluesier, soulful route. I got painted with a different brush. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy that, but playing that kind of music was kind of going a little bit backwards for me. So now what I'm doing is at this point in my career, and at this point in my life, I only want to do things which really, really mean something to me. Now, I could do the easier, softer route and take the money and run and do more of a corporate needs, more of a sort of a metal bass rock, if you will, but that doesn't do it for me. It doesn't really tick all the boxes. What does it for me is a very soulful style of music that I've now patterned. If you know my music by now, you'll know that when you think of Glenn Hughes, you'll think, oh yeah, he was bass player of Deep Purple, but he's the funky R&B soul rock singer, and that's where I want to be right now.
Absolutely, but yet it's interesting. It wasn't that long ago when you purposely tried to make an album that sounded like, like you did in the mid-'70s when you did Songs in the Key of Rock.
Yeah, absolutely.
That album was about as 1974 Burn era as I think anything you've done.
And once again, it's an involvement. I think, involvement and evolvement. I think that all through my solo career in sobriety since 91, there are a lot of people in the industry that have their own opinion of what Glenn Hughes should be. And because I'm sort of, if you want to call it, multifaceted, because I can switch gears from hard rock to jazz to soul to funk and all that stuff, this is sort of, it's sort of like, where shall we go with this record? Or maybe we can do this. And I got sort of tired of it. When I made songs in the key of rock, it was an experimentation to see if I would feel comfortable making a classic rock record, which I actually like that record, actually. But by the time I toured behind that album, I thought I'd taken my audience as far as I could with that. So when I made Soul Mover, when I wrote the song Soul Mover, if you listen to that album in entirety, you notice there's a spiritual connection on that record, and there's a more of a swagger, and there's a more of a funk foundation. And the great thing was, worldwide, my audience doubled, and the audience got younger. Now, I never went out to get a younger audience. But my audience prior to songs in the key of rock, the average age was maybe 45. And now I look in the audience today, and the average age is 22 to 27, and you can't, knock that.
Sure. Now I'm interested too, Glenn. I mean, obviously the landscape of the business of music has changed greatly in exactly the same time period where you came out with Music for the Divine and now Nuclear Kitchen. And for an artist, I mean, are you able to maintain both record deals and business alliances and, contracts to go out and tour and everything based in large detail because of who you are, for 35 years? Or do you think that people are signing you to do different projects, based on the new material?
There's a great news, and only since I think maybe 5 years now, that every record I'm with, whether it's in Europe or America or the Far East or South America, I have on the contract that I get to choose the material and produce myself. And I, basically, it's not rocket science. I'm not 22 years old. I'm not in a boy band. I'm not really sort of in starting out where, let's just say, a corporate like a Universal or a Sony or a Warner would come in, or Interscope, and mold you, if you will. I've got the ability now to sort of play with who I want to have, whether it's Chad Smith or John Frusciante or Dave Navarro or Jerry Cantrell or Billy Gibbons or whoever, I think it's a great thing that I've chosen from. So what I said before, I'd rather do it my way and do it the way I want to do it rather than do it somebody else's way and not be happy.
So does that mean that you've had to pass on some opportunities because people want you to be Deep Purple, Glenn, instead of
yes, absolutely.
Spectrum?
And I've actually passed, and I won't say who with, in the last couple of years, the opportunity to make records with other artists that are very famous, because I didn't particularly want to go that route at the moment. So the only route I want to stay, and this is today, speaking today, it all could change tomorrow. I might wake up and I might want to play Hawaiian music, I don't know. But the way I'm writing right now, and if you're familiar with my songs, I'm really making honest, accountable, Glenn Hughes sounding music. Whereas if I was in a band of like if I was in a Metallica type band or a band like Aerosmith, it was like a brand where you'd have to sort of stay in that genre of doing what your fans would want. I have a great happiness in doing things I want to do, and I have a very, very cult fan base that really follow what I do, and they really, and truly now, they follow my writing and my voice. If I'm gonna, let's just say, for instance, I may make a song like Oil and Water, which is really heavy. Then I'll do a really soft song like Imperfection off the album. They understand both genres. Where, let's just say if I was in a jazz band, they would expect pure jazz. Or if I was in, let's just say, Sabbath again, they would want it to be very traditionally square-sounding, very hardcore Iommi-influenced rock music. But I get a great opportunity to tour the world now and play Glenn Hughes-sounding music.
Well, Glenn, since you have taken the attitude at this juncture in your career to do things your way, would you feel comfortable in perhaps considering a name change, calling yourself perhaps Glenn Sinatra?
Yeah. We actually thought about branding something different, or even 10 years ago, and maybe 12 years ago, I was going to form a project, calling it something completely different, and doing videos in a sort of a graphic way, where it wouldn't be showing my face, it would be sort of a graphics, or it would be like caricatures. And there's still a possibility that I will do that. Like Gorillas did with Damon Albarn from Blur. It's a possibility. Because my dance card is full, if you will, I'm completely booked up. I get the opportunity, like I said before, is to choose with who I want to write my songs with, or if I don't want to write any songs with. I wouldn't be averse to doing something under another name. My ego is not that great. I mean, I would really actually invite that to do something like that.
Sure. Well, Glenn, I just wanted to get your perspective on a few of your contemporaries and what they're doing right now. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're a very active member in the music community, but I guess I want your impression as to what it is about these quality musicians or individuals that make them so timeless. I'll start with one of your cohorts and a friend of yours, Tony Iommi, and the Black Sabbath lineup with Dio that's having such great success touring and on the brink of releasing a brand new CD of all, brand new material. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you something. Good to start with that, because let's be clear about this. I always like to talk about the organically authentic originators of the sound or the genre. There's no greater influence on young metal guitar players across the world, from Poland to Portofino, than Tony Iommi. He is the grandmaster and granddaddy of that sound and genre. And I believe that Ronnie James Dio is a perfect foil for Tony Iommi. A perfect, if you will, they are both, because Ronnie comes from that ilk of, he really, the devil's horns and that whole heaven and hell, that whole believable fairy tale-ish genre that they deliver really well. So 2 thumbs up for those two guys.
Excellent. Well, how about your Deep Purple contemporary David Coverdale and resurrecting as Whitesnake and putting out a extremely solid release last year?
David and I are the closest, as you can imagine. We were very, very close. We spoke today, actually. He's taken 9 years to make a follow-up since Into the Light. He has steadfastly gone the route of, I want to do a record that is very much fulfills my fan base. David, 7 or 8, 9 years ago, wanted to do solo, and he wanted to do something a little lighter. We had a conversation, and he said, gee, I want to play arenas, I want to do stadiums, and he said, I need to do it with Whitesnake. So we went, and it took several years to write a follow-up, if you will, to the 87 record. I think David, what he's done, he's fulfilled his fan base to do what he wants to do, and he's happy to do that. He's come to a point in his life where he's happy to do that.
Well, another band, I don't know if you have any association with them or not, but obviously one of the biggest bands of the last year as far as a new record and touring is AC/DC, selling out arenas everywhere that they go and selling millions of records when record sales are next to nothing these days. I
wrote a foreword in a Metal Hammer special. Mac, you want to go outside, honey? Go outside, come on. I wrote a foreword in a magazine for those guys. They are, without doubt, for me, pound for pound, today, right now, the greatest rock band out there, because they are no messing around. They are strictly the brand that it is AC/DC. They know their point. They know the point they should be doing. They know the sound, the genre. They got Fullwood back on drums. It's Brian Johnson's a perfect foil, a replacement for Bon Scott. They are a swagger, balls out, hard rock band that are a key element in how a band should play today, of that genre.
Right. Well, with all that said, and mentioning these, these stalwarts of hard rock, heavy metal music, we have this conversation on the Classic Metal Show quite often. When these arena-style acts are gone, who would you see in the future being able to possibly top that or even take their place when, time basically takes these people away from us?
I was just having this conversation yesterday with another interview. If you look at the gap, and I want to just name some names. If you look at Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, Yes, The Who, infinitum, there's about 10 very big bands, iconic bands from the 70s. The next lineup of bands that came through in the mid-80s, which is a generation later, there's two big bands. There's Metallica and there's U2. And they are massive. And then after that, you gotta go to not so massive, which is the Black Crowes, not so much as massive, which is maybe Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, which weren't really, really iconic. And then today, what you got now in rock? Right. There isn't anything. There's nothing selling 5 million plus records because they can't sell records anymore. What worries me is that when all these bands like The Who and the Stones and all these bands stop touring, where are people going to go to what it's going to be? There's going to be nothing.
Right.
There might still be a Judas Priest. There may be an Iron Maiden. I would imagine Maiden will go on for the 10 years. And this is a genre that, as you guys know, I'm not really a metal artist, but I'm just talking for the sake of your listeners. That's what I see. I don't really see what can come after that. I don't know. I don't really see anything happening right now that's rejuvenating the hard rock scene. I just don't see it.
Right. Well, we're in the same boat with you. We're worried about it, Glenn, because there's just nothing. It's almost like the music industry is going to become a club scene.
Well, simply because the record industry is of kill rock music. In America, at least, America is really bad, man. Most rock acts are playing Europe because it's such a better scene. Corporate greedy record companies have gone, of course there's many different departments in record companies, there's the hip hop, there's pop, and there's R&B, and there's blah, blah, blah. But there's no rock segments at record labels anymore. Rock is a dead animal in America. The classic rock market is still big with the original lineups. But how many times can these guys tour?
Right.
And how many of them are there left? There ain't many left, Sure. The greatest music still out there that garners the highest grossing ticket sales and the highest grossing merchandise is British classic rock. Sure.
Absolutely. Well, Glenn, obviously, man, with that being said, there's obviously always rumors, it seems like, that this lineup of Purple and that lineup of Purple and, your lineup of Purple is going to get put back together. And there's been a lot of talk about the Mach 3 lineup. Now, I'm going to guess here, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I'm assuming by the fact that you're out doing more funk and laid-back type of music and, and Richie Blackmore's out writing music for Renaissance fairs, that it's just not in the cards anymore.
No,
is that pretty close to right?
David and I have been discussing this with John Lord for about 3 years, and it's been on the table, off the table, on the table, off the table. David and I had a long discussion 3 months ago about at one more time, it would be a good time to do it in the next year, but there are a lot of things that may stop it from happening, and I'll be telling you guys tonight on the phone that I can't see it happening. I don't want to donate any more of my time to doing this because, all across the world asking me the same question, all the interviews I ever do, when are you guys going to get back together? And, it's never going to, I can't see it happen. And I don't think about it anymore. You guys just asked me the question. I never think about it. It doesn't even enter my thought process anymore. For many, many reasons it won't happen. it's a shame because the fans would have loved to have seen it. But then again, I understand why Jimmy and Robert probably won't put Zeppelin together, because that is let the legacy be intact. I don't know if people will want to see guys doing these same songs they did 35 years ago. I don't know. I know there'll be a lot of people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people every night that would pay to see this. But none of us want to do it for greed reasons. We would want to do it for some kind of artistic revelry. I would want to do it for that reason. I'm to be honest with you, I don't want to get on that stage and just coast and put the pipe and slippers on and just, yawn and get all that money. That's not what I want to do. I want to give the audience a really, really good time.
Sure. Now, Metallica recently came on record saying that while they're honored to be put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that it's almost a crime that Deep Purple's not in there. Obviously you were in the band, but, looking not only at your era, but all eras of that, do you agree?
Once again, I never think about it. I try and stay out of the results. If somebody said to me, tomorrow you're going to get inducted with like the other 7 or 8 members that are, that were integral, I'd show up in Cleveland and I'd be there. I don't really think about it. I mean, my legacy with the band is very much intact. A lot of people love Mark III. In fact, Stormbringer, the album I remixed, by the way, it was released a couple of weeks ago and went straight into number 2 in England, which is higher than it went the first time. And so I'm really happy with the legacy that David and I left with the band. There are a lot of people that would love to see Deep Purple inducted, and it may happen. It's just, I think it would happen if the reunion got back together. I think if that reunion was to do it, like I say, I'm not saying it's ever going to happen, but I think it would definitely garnish some committee members to think about that.
Well, Glenn, you got the new CD out now, which is an acronym for FUNK, First Underground Nuclear Kitchen, and you're pushing that pretty hard. You worked again with Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I know you struck up a pretty good relationship with him, and I know you have a great appreciation for what he does. And,
I do.
And do you plan on doing any kind of shows here in the States? I know you're very big in the European market, but do you plan on doing anything in the States? Yeah,
we just played Boston and New York last weekend. We play Los Angeles some Saturday. And then and trust me when I tell you this, because those shows were sold out, the shows, it's America is a place that I thought to myself 2 years ago, man, I really want to play here. I wonder if people would show up. Well, they did show up, and they're showing up, and they're showing up in great numbers, and they're like buying merchandise, and they're buying CDs, and they're making a lot of noise, and there's lines around the block, and I am so happy that I could actually come back. I live in Los Angeles, as you know, for 37 years. I live in America, spend most of my time outside of America. I am so happy to be able to come now and play here and really work this. It's a difficult country to play, guys, but it is my strongest desire to play in this country because my American fans are absolutely incredible.
Excellent, Glenn. Well, Glenn, I wanted to ask you about Don Dokken. I know you were you're friends with Don. I know you lived with him at one point, and
I love Don Dokken.
You actually sang on his or did some demo work with his Up from the Ashes. And I recently came across your demos floating around there on the internet.
Wow.
Of you singing the songs from what would be Up from the Ashes, the Don Dokken band record.
Don let me loose in he had a little demo studio in his bedroom, and he went out for the afternoon. He said, "Why don't you come up with some lyrics and some melodies for the songs I'm going to do?" And and this is before I was clean and sober. I was actually sober on that day and clean, but I wasn't the man I am today. And guys like Don Dokken and stuff like this is before I got clean and sober, and they really believed in me before I got sober. And I have a few friends that championed me. And I won't forget that. And Don I don't see Don enough, although we live in the same town. I don't see him enough. And, looking back on that period for me, it was a moment of, can I do this? Can I get back into this thing? Have I gone too far into drugs? Have I gone too far? Have I slipped back too far? And looking back, there were a few people who were championing me. A lot of people wrote me off, and of course, I've had the last laugh on that. But Don is one of those guys that stood by me very much so.
Excellent. Well, I was kind of, when I got a hold of these demos, I don't know where they came from or how they got released, but when I told Don that I had them, he was shocked.
Oh, he was, man. I'm so happy to hear that.
Because he said that they were recorded on a little 4-track recorder, and he thought he had the only copy of it.
Huh, that's funny. That's funny. I mean, I'd love to get a copy of that shit, too, so maybe you could send me a link or something or whatever.
Sure, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Glenn. Well, we're always glad to have you here on the Classic Metal Show. Obviously, you're pushing the latest release, just called Funk, or First Underground Nuclear Kitchen. And what would you like to tell the fans that we haven't touched on?
If you are a fan, or if you haven't heard anything from Glenn Hughes in a while, and if you want to know what I'm doing and where I'm going, and you want to hear something that is definitive in genre and style, that is not like anybody else, then this is the album to listen to. It's a very, very honest account of an artist that's created his own style, and it's very much today. It isn't about yesterday. It isn't about what I was doing 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's about right now. It's contemporary. It's great production. I mean, I can't really talk music. I can only sing it to you. I can only be in front of you live on stage. And when you see that on stage, it's all over.
Sure.
I've got you.
Absolutely, Glenn. Well, I know you were good friends with Kevin Dubrow, and I can't remember if we've spoken with you since his passing, but any thoughts on Kevin?
Well, I spoke to Frankie today, and I could go on this forever, guys, but I just need you to know this about Kevin Dubrow. He was a very misunderstood man. Kevin was a teddy bear, a sweet, sweet guy, and I was very close to him towards the last 5 years of his life. I was kind of a spiritual friend of his, and I shared a lot of private time with Kevin. He had a room in my house, a room he used to come and stay with me anytime he wanted. Kevin was like a young brother to me, and when he was ripped away from me, it was soul destroying, and I knew something was wrong. Like, I had the paramedics break in his house. I don't want to be the guy that you remember for breaking into the house to find my friend, passed away. But I was very, very, very close to him, and I don't have a brother or sister. He was definitely a brother to me. So he's a guy that his memory is very much alive in this house with me and my wife. Kevin still walks the halls of my house, people. He's still up there playing pool right now. I can feel him opening his candies in the bedroom. It's definitely someone I love very much.
Sure. Well, excellent, Glenn. Well, as I said before, Glenn, we are always happy to have you here on the Classic Metal Show, and you're welcome to come back at any time. Go pick up Glenn's latest release called First Underground Nuclear Kitchen, or Funk for short.
There it is.
And Glenn, I don't remember if we've asked you this question when we had you on the show last, but we always ask everybody this question. How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
Not at all. I mean, Lemmy and I are the polar opposites. You asked me this question last time, and once again I'll answer it again. No disrespect to Lemmy, but his lifestyle and my lifestyle are polar opposites, and the way he sings and plays are completely opposite to me. So it's completely something that is like alien to me.
Sure, absolutely. All right, Glenn. Well, we always let our artists pick a closing song and maybe tell us a story about it. So would you like to pick a song off of your latest release?
I would. I think I'd like you to play Crave, because it's sort of a hard rock track. It's the opening track off the album, and it gives the listener a little insight of what we're doing and where we're going.
All right, excellent. Well, here it is. This is the great Glenn Hughes with the Funk release, and this is Crave exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.
Thanks for checking out the best of the Classic Metal Show. You can tune into the Classic Metal Show live every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com.
The Classic Metal Show.